Hey everybody, I'm Mike Venus.
Mike Venus. La Soul, nigga.
Right. So let's talk about it. I'm gonna talk about the Akai Force, why it's the king of music, hardware, or just music production. We'll say music production. Right? Let's get started. All right. First and foremost, let's compare it to Ableton Push. Now, number one, I'll say that this is not comparable because the Akai Force is not a MIDI controller. The Ableton Push is a MIDI controller, right? Right? And because it is a MIDI controller, turn this down a little bit, right? Because it's a MIDI controller that is solely dependent upon Ableton Live, um, it can't really be compared to the Akai Force. But because you got people out there that want to do these comparisons, mainly content creators, all right, that really don't understand what the fuck they talking about. But hey, it is what it is. I'll be a villain. So let's get into it. Number one, the Akai Force is truly standalone, right? There's nothing on the market that can match up to it in standalone hardware type stuff, right? And there's nothing that can really compare with it with MIDI controllers. That's why I say it's the king of music production gear, right? Now, with Ableton Push, let's get this straight. Ableton Push, the first controller was between Akai and Ableton, right? And everything seemed like it was fine and dandy, but like less than 2 years after it was made, Ableton makes the Push 2, which totally kills the first Push, right? And even though Akai made several other controllers compatible with Ableton, um, nothing was more valued than the Push. But with the Push 2, it kind of just killed that market, right? Now, some years later, you get the Akai Force. Now, everybody and their mama that knew about this coming either had the assumption that this was like a MPC live or APC live type thing, or some type of what's the thing? Some type of like um Ableton Akai standalone type contraction, right? And everybody was so geeked. So this rumor came out about it being like basically this was like, the next big Ableton controller. Well, I'm sorry, but I believe, this is what I believe, that Akai was like, fuck you. To anybody that's sensitive to my language, this might not be your video. This might be a trigger. But yeah, so they came out with this device and it's nothing like the Push. Okay, if we actually sit and compare these side to side, these are not the same on any level. So, note mode, right? If you're playing a melodic instrument, right, you only got two options to do in note mode. You got scales, I mean not scales, you got in key and chromatic. On the Akai Force, you got pull up, right? You got chromatic, similar. They got scales, which is similar to in key. You got harmonize, which that's not on Push. You got chords, that's not on Push. You have progressions. That's not on push. You got a piano layout, guitar layout, bass layout, and two nets. That's not on push. Okay. So even within this mode of note mode, this has far more superior options and creative ways of coming up with compositions or making your songs quicker. And it targets many people. Push doesn't have that, right? So let's say we go to the step sequence, right? They both have step sequence. On the push, you got drum, rack, or whatever, right? And you have 64 pad mode, right? Okay. If you're using a melodic instrument, you got basically a vertical scale, you know, that you can build either chords or put your melodies, right? And then you got 32 step melodic mode, right? Cool, you know. But when it comes to the Akai Force and we dealing with the same situation, you got far more options. Now, to be fair, I'm not a favor of some of these options because I feel like they're underdeveloped. They can be improved upon with further future updates, like mono step 8x4, poly note 8x4, mono 8x8, poly 8x8. Melodics can be improved upon, but really the ones that is like the bread and butter is the drums and the lanes, where you really gonna get your mileage out of. And I'll say this: the only advantage that the Ableton Push has over the Force is that they have something where you can basically, within one clip, you can make up to 16 bar loop and actually pick a particular bar to loop or pair up different bars to loop, which is pretty cool. That's not on the Akai Force. But with all these different options to lay down either drum patterns or even melodies or chords, Force got it, hands down. Another function that the Force have that the Push can't do is if you push launch and note together, you get 32 basically cuts in half. The top 4 is basically where you can launch clips from launch mode, which is similar to session view. And the bottom 32 steps give you access to either your drum track with your samples in it or whatever, or to the keyboard. And you can have it in whatever mode you want. You want it in harmony. You know what I'm saying? Chords. This ain't that good. Progressions. You know what I'm saying? Whatever you feel like doing. Hell, even in chromatic. You can't do that with the Push. Far superior. Okay? So, yeah. To all you people out there that want to do these videos, want to compare the Force to the Push, we're not even on the same level, bro. Okay? Akai was just like, you know what? I'm gonna flex on you. Like, y'all could have had these functions, but you chose to try to stunt on me, so I'm gonna flex on you. That's why the Force is the king of musical production gear, and it's better than the Ableton Push 2. Straight up. Oh, and if you want to say, well, here's the other argument. Well, if it's so great, then why can't I control Ableton with my Force. You know, why can't I use the Force like the Push on Ableton? Because number one, like I just told you, Ableton tried to stunt on Akai. Akai was like, okay, I got something for you, sitting in the dark, waiting, lurking for the right time to flex on you. And that's what he did. That's why it's the king. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, this is basically a souped up APC I'll say MK or APC 40 MK3 on steroids. That's basically what this is if you connect it to Ableton. Like, think about that. You're able with Ableton Link, you're able to connect to Ableton wirelessly, right? Launch clips from Ableton while that's launching, come back seamlessly to the Force, launch clips here while that's still launching. Then I ain't even talk about that. Like, okay, the other thing on Ableton Push, you got something like user mode where you could basically make a straight up fully customized macro MIDI mapped basically blank sheet where you can map any of the buttons and knobs and Q links, whatever macros to this thing. Okay, that's nice. Well, what about the Force? Well, we got knob mode, right? Which is a beast. Okay, you don't got that on Push. Okay, you got with the latest update, the 3.1.3. All right, you get 2 projects where you can customize up to 16 different, 2 sets of 8 of the knobs, and you can set macros to each knob, as many as you want to put on there, right? And those 2 projects can be used within the same project. You can customize your tracks, Q links. You can have a track effect rack with customized settings, right? And you can easily, while triggering the knob, you can go to your volume, pan, your sends. So basically you got 10 different options. And if you can send it where you can set up to control MIDI from an external piece of gear, right? And you have it on scenes where it automatically locks to whatever thing you're in, boss mode, right? So you got these, you got this. All these pads can be customized macros, and I'm gonna show you something. Say you want to launch keys and still have access to your pads that you set your little, customized macros to. Push knobs and launch. There you go. I got the knobs. Not knobs. I got the pads down here that I can customize with whatever macros I want, and still launch clips up top. And still can link up to Ableton and launch clips from there, and then come straight back into the Force and do that. You can't do that with the Push. That's why it's the king style. Okay? Right? Say I wanted to have access to plug in the pads that I have macros set to and launch clips. I can do that. I can also set it up where I can have access to the pads that I have my macros set on and still have access to the to the plug-in, key group, drum rack, whatever. You can't do that on the Push. So stop. And then other thing is, and this is probably the final, right? Is that this is truly standalone. It's standalone. You know what I'm saying? I don't even have a computer, or I don't need to have a computer to work with the Akai Force. I don't have to have a certain software to utilize the Akai Force. This thing is a beast. And with Ableton, if you have the push, you got to get an audio interface. This has phantom power already, so I can hook up instruments, microphones, straight into it and record. I can sample with this. It's a beast. Right. This got 6 different tracks, while I want to say at best you might got 4 or 5. You got simpler, sampler, instrument rack, the different synths or whatever, drum rack and impulse. 5. Here, or an audio track. Here, you got 6. Plug-in. And the plugins aren't that bad on the Force either. That's another thing. At first people were shitting on it, but now they done stepped it up. It's a beast, bro. This is a beast. And even with the effects, and once you buy it, you got it. And the updates are free. This is the king. So to all you haters out there that got some shit to say about the Akai Force, that feel a certain kind of way, you know what I'm saying? Y'all need to put some respect on the Force, okay? And it got disc streaming. I can hook this up to a mixer, have it connected to a DJ set. I can play with this straight by itself. You know what I'm saying? It's a beast, bro. So with that, I'm gonna wrap it up. Just know that the Ableton Push 2 have nothing on the Akai Force. They should not even be talked about in the same sphere of comparisons. 2 different things. That's a MIDI controller. This is a big boy. All right. This is a grown man. That's a fetus. Okay. It's not even the same thing. And I'm not. That's no disrespect, because I like the Push too. I think it's great for Ableton, but you can't use it with nothing else. That gets a thumb down. You can't be the king and you only work with one person. You're not flexible, brother. So with that, y'all be blessed. I'm Mike Venus, La Soul. All right. And with that, I'm out.
Mike Venus. La Soul, man.